Branson, Missouri. It's a very special place. It may be special to you because you remember getting 5-cent ice cream downtown, visiting Allendale Resort, Maying Field, or maybe you remember a 25-cent haircut down at Chick's Barbershop. Even though I'm not from Branson, some of the most fond memories I have of my childhood took place there. I remember going down to the lakefront with my grandma and my family and feeding the ducks, sitting on the steps, driving go-karts and playing putt-putt. It was just such an amazing place, and all within the gorgeous rolling hills of the Ozarks. I have so many great memories of Branson, but one thing I don't remember is my grandfather. My grandfather lived in Branson, and growing up, I remember people telling me that my grandfather was a great man and he was loved and respected by so many people. I also remember hearing that he was considered a hero in a school fire and that he was apparently a pretty good basketball coach. Other than that, I really knew nothing about him. In 2014, I got this crazy idea to shoot an amateur documentary about my grandfather. I look at my father and the relationship he has with my two sons, and it's hard for me knowing that I missed out on having that sort of relationship with a grandfather. Not only did I miss out on having that relationship, but in the 2-year span of shooting this documentary, I couldn't find a single picture of my grandfather and I together. For these reasons, I decided to learn what I could about my grandfather by talking to some of his friends, family, co-workers, and basketball players. My grandfather was John Earl Chase, and this is what I learned.
Dale Russell, 1955. He was a man of few words, very few words.
Everyone says he was a man of few words, and I think that's why when he spoke, people listened.
My name's Dave Shanahan. I graduated in '52, and I was in John Earl's first 2 teams that he had at Branson. We did what we could do best. Every player played to his own strengths. We played a sound man-to-man, what we call a sinking man-to-man defense, and we just played to our strengths.
Jerry Cantrell. I played basketball for John Earl Chase. Success breeds success. You know, we were all, our 58 team, we were all well aware of his accomplishments in the 55 team with a 41-0 record. You can't get much better than that. And even as dumb as kids are, they can realize that if somebody can accomplish that, you might better pay attention to what he has to say.
My name is Charlie Crosby, and I played in the years of 1951 and 1952 for Mr. Chase. There wasn't anybody that he didn't think he could win from. See, this is one thing that made him a great coach too, is that he thought we could win from anybody. And he made us think this way too. He had us thinking this way.
Phil Sparks, 1958. I played 3 years for John Earl. I always said that he knew boys better than anyone I ever knew. He could get more out of you than you knew you had in you.
He was the type of person that you would run through a wall for.
My name is Jack Nevins. We knew what he expected. He didn't demand anything hardly. He just expected it, and we knew that, and we went out and we gave it everything, you know, what we had, practice and at the game.
He always said he'd rather coach players of average ability and talents who had the great desire to play rather than have those who really wanted to try and be the stars of the team.
They wanted to please the coach.
Tom Magnus, graduated in 1960. I played for John Earl from 4th grade on up to senior in high school. 4 different sports. He was kind of like my only coach, but I guess if I'd had 27 others, he'd have still been the best one.
but very methodical, and the teams were all well coached.
Buddy Blunk, and I played for him in 1955. We loved playing for him. I mean, you know, he just teaches you things without really thinking about it. And so you really wanted to do your very best for him all the time.
Glenn Persinger, 1958. John Earl was way above average person in my mind.
The little exercise of keep away, I cannot understand why young coaches today do not use that drill. I attribute a lot of his successes in coaching due to that very simple little drill.
His favorite thing was keep away. You never stood still. You had to move. And I think that led to that we very rarely turned the ball over.
My dad would let me come over in the third grade if I promised not to play with the balls or get on the floor. And I could sit there and watch the practice. I just remember him practicing on half court. It seemed like hour after hour. But looking back and in talking with my dad, his teams back in the early mid-50s were playing keep away over and over. Passing, moving, pivoting, defense. And they really knew how to control the ball.
It taught you everything you need to know about the sport of basketball, except the shooting. And he says, you guys shoot all the time anyway, so you don't need to do that. But we never ran bleachers. We never ran laps. That exercise put you in basketball condition.
Now, where you could tell the men from the boys when they went to the water fountain after that drill, you lined up in a row and you got a drink. There wasn't one man in that line, 10 men, with one dry inch of clothes on. They're all totally soaked.
It taught dribbling. It taught setting screens and blocks. It taught defense. It was winding, conditioning, and it was a tremendous drill.
The teams were all well coached. They knew what was expected of them, and one of the traits is they never beat themselves.
Our teams were never out physical. We were hardly breathing after a game. Practice is where you breathe hard. You know, that's where the work was in the practice. Games were really pretty easy.
You played offense. We never really had any set plays to run. But here again, you go back to what you know is the keep away drill. You never stand in one place. You keep moving, sliding, setting blocks and screens. People are moving, passing, dribbling, and somebody in a minute or two will be open.
We have heard a lot of people refer to him as the gentleman coach, and even though he might be, extremely nervous or tense, you would never know it by looking at him. And several players have commented that because he was so cool under pressure, that helped them to be relaxed and cool and confident that they could win.
He would call timeouts when they should be called, and would calm the players down.
He was always so calm.
He remained quite calm throughout most ball games, even those that were seemingly more heated than others.
But I think one thing that set John Earl apart from a lot of the coaching and the philosophy today is his demeanor and calmness during, any kind of a ball game crisis. He was totally very reserved, relaxed, and he kept everybody else relaxed.
He was very calm on the bench. He was probably churning a lot inside, but one of the comments a lot of people made is you could never tell whether his team was ahead by 20 points or behind by 1 or 2 points toward the end. He was always the same.
He never would lose his temper with the referees. He would never badmouth them, and he wouldn't allow his players to badmouth them. And so I think that calmness and respect that he displayed for referees was a great example of Branson sportsmanship.
The famous pose, here, I'm doing it while we speak. This was it, legs crossed, hands, chin in the hands.
We were up there playing Buffalo in the finals of blue and gold, and that we were behind, and we come in the fourth quarter, about halfway through, we was down about 5 points or so, and John called a timeout, went over, very stern man, you know, didn't crack a smile or nothing. He said, you know, boys, you remember that that press that we've never practiced? I think it'd be a good time to use it.
Now, one story that you probably haven't heard, we were playing in the gym, the little gym, and a referee made a bad call. Coach Chase never ever said anything. All of a sudden there's a Coke bottle comes sliding across the gym floor. Coach Chase looked over at the person that threw it, shook his head no, took about 3 steps, picked up the Coke bottle, put it under his seat, and sat back down.
I never remember seeing him, get mad or upset. I never saw him yell at the refs. I never saw him scowl at his players.
That's the main thing that everybody that ever played for Coach Chase would tell you, that he was a great guy to play for because he always encouraged you.
Ed Akers, I graduated in 1960. Last year I played for John was 1958. John was a special man. He, as my friend Tom here has said many times, you played for him like he was your dad. You wanted to make him proud.
He had just a way of bringing out the best in people, and maybe it was the small things that he said or did. Ed Akers said one time that my father, during a ball game, just called him over to the side and just said, I just want you to know how proud I am of the progress that you've made. And Ed said that just really lifted him up, and those things stuck with people, and he just really had a way of motivating people to be the best that they can be.
He said, the guys that go up and get the ball, which these other guys were bigger and taller, they always had to bring it down first when they hit the floor, So that's when you want to get the ball, and that's what we did.
The best thing that I remember about him, and it was because we were almost losing a game we shouldn't have been losing at Spokane. Should have been ahead of them 50 points at the halftime. We were ahead by 3. He walks in the dressing room and says, you guys keep playing like this and they're going to haul your ashes. He turns around and walks out of the dressing room. That was it.
I did steal the ball once in a while and make a layup. And he told me more than once. He said, it's just like 6 points. I said, wow, is it 6 points? He said, the 2 they didn't get, the 2 you got, and 2 demoralizing. That's what he always said. And it made me feel good. Anytime we were playing a good team, he would say, guys, they're not as good as you think they are. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do.
He could always come up with something unusual and different in a game situation.
One of the things I remember about John Earl, one of the funniest things, John wouldn't cuss. But when we'd get in the huddle and we'd be goofing off, and he'd say, if you guys don't shape up, you're going to get your ashes hauled.
Ashes hauled.
But I do remember something he said before we won the state tournament. He says, guys, pay attention, do your best. If you win this game, you'll never forget it for the rest of your life.
Well, the game I remember the most is the game that I scored 47 points at the blue and gold tournament. Our team was winning and they had taken me out, and somebody came down and told him that I was just a few points away from breaking the record in the tournament. And so he came over and he told me, he said, I'm going to put you back in. I want you to shoot a few shots and then we'll take you back out. So I went back in, I shot a few shots, I set the record, he took me out, and he said, you did well. Yeah, my name is Tom Field. I graduated in 1956. Well, we knew we were a good team, but I don't think any of us expected to get through the entire season undefeated.
I was standing at the corner of 76 and 65 in Al Mollenhauer's gas station as the 55 team was coming into that intersection after winning the championship. And they were sitting in convertibles. I remember my dad had that plaid Pendleton jacket, little jacket he had on, big smile, and I thought the world had stopped. I mean, this was the most important event ever in the history of the United States, to see this team coming in and being honored. And it was quite a feeling to see all the people in Branson and surrounding areas come around and support them.
The 1955 state champs had a record of 41 wins and 0 losses. That remains still today as the best single-season record of any level of Missouri high school basketball.